Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sage Intacct Construction's 2024 Release 4 highlights. We're going to cover some of the new features in the release notes here. We're going to cover construction and other pertinent features. To get to the list of all of the release highlights, you're going to come here to the homepage and you're going to click Read the Release Notes. The list here is going to encompass all of the releases and all of the updates, but you're going to come up here to 2024 Release 4, and you can see here the entire list of all the new releases. You can click on the green link so it'll give you more detail. Also, the date is November 8th for the new release. Okay. Also, 2025 release calendar is listed here at the top for your reference. Just a reminder, you want to come into your security in your roles and make sure that after the release, you're going to want to turn on those new features. So your admin role usually encompasses all features. So you're going to come in here to company admin roles, and you're going to make sure all of your bullets are turned on in each area so that all of the features are visible to you for the specific roles that you want to turn them on for. So the admin role here, I want to make sure I click all, and I come down here as well and hit all bullets. Make sure you're at the bottom. Okay. So just a few tidbits there. Some of the highlights we're going to go through, some of the new features and much more, but here's just a handful. Time and material billing updates, some updates to projects, Sage Intacct Construction payroll enhancements. We're going to go through work in progress and WIP enhancements. Also, the streamlined setup for GL outliers, so transactions that might fall out of the norm in your general ledger. Permissions and list enhancements and changes, and much more. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right in.
Part of Sage Intacct's release number 4 for 2024 includes an update that is specific to construction because it allows you to print summarized and non-summarized time and material billing details for your project contract invoice, as well as non-summarized expenses. So to show you how that looks in the system, let's go to projects and we'll click into our view invoices here. I'm going to select include private because I'm at top level, and I'll find a T&M invoice. Let me just go into this one. And on my tab for summary billing details, it's broken out now by expense. It's itemized by expense. It previously in your project contract billing details would have rolled up to your project contract line ID. That is no longer the case in this summary billing details. You can itemize by expense. So that can be pulled onto your printed document templates to send out with your invoice. And they also have a new configuration option that allows you to zip all supporting documents automatically and attach it to your customer invoices when you're sending those out. So that's how that new tab is going to function in the system. And it's just going to allow you to break down your expenses and give you the ability to pull them onto a printed document template.
Sage Intacct Construction version 2024 Release 4 introduces a new feature, new set of fields available on the project setup screen. On the bottom of the project tab, now there's a section for scope and schedule. Fields under scope section of this screen are all memo fields and will store sufficient information to capture basic information related to scope exclusions, inclusions, or terms. You can simply type the text there, or you can take your Word document or whatever document you use to store your project scope information. You can simply select the text and you can do Control copy, Control C, and then paste information in memo field for scope field. You can also do the same thing. Let's repeat the same steps for exclusions. Just simply copy exclusion text and you can put it there now. Also on the bottom, you can have a scheduled start date or any dates related to the project in terms of scheduled start, actual start date. Let's make sure, in this case, my schedule date and my start date are exactly the same. And then we have a completion date. Let's move this to the end of the next year. So it's a full year project. And then revised completion date could be actual dates that you're going to capture based on reality of your job site. Same thing with substantial completion, actual completion date, notice to proceed, response due, executed on, and a schedule impact in terms of dates. So those fields are available now for reporting. You can bring them to your doc template. You can also use them on different reports.
We now have the ability to see a change management tab within the projects and project contract screen. So if I go to my projects application and click into project contracts. I'm just going to view here on one of them, and I have my change management screen. I don't actually have any change orders for this project, but the actual tab is there. And then if I similarly go to projects, it links back to the actual project itself as well. And I'm going to try and choose one that does have some change orders. So I think Amazon San Antonio does. I'm going to view on that, and here is my change management tab. It's showing me my change requests and my change orders. And if you are in your instance and you can't see that, go to projects, setup, configuration. And when you get in there, I want you to scroll down until you get to this section for, where are you? Additional options. And the enable change management tab is there. So you also, have your estimates tab, your purchasing commitments, and your project summary. Here's where you would enable all of those. If you don't have them turned on, you didn't realize that that was an option, that's how you would turn on those tabs so that you can see that within your project screen. So once you've clicked them, you're going to save, and then you're going to have those tabs available within your project. So I just have to look at any of them, and I'm going to see the tabs across the top. So welcome addition is this change management tab. A lot of customers have been looking for that. So we are glad that they have added that, and it's as simple as that, turning it on, and there you have it.
Next up, we're going to talk about a few more enhancements that we cannot show you in live software, but are worth talking with and showing you some screenshots on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in to a little PowerPoint here with some screenshots, and this is going to be involved in both of the Sage Field Operations, SFO enhancements, and then also the Sage Construction Payroll. So let's first talk about SFO and what's coming out with Sage Field Operations as far as enhancements go. So basically their Sage Business Intelligence Analytics is now generally available for all users in the system. It's going to give you more analytic tools to run off of your Sage Field Operation data. Another big feature that was limiting in the SFO interface within Intacct in inventory, if you have the need to track serial numbers within your inventory items, you can do that, and you could do that already in Sage Intacct, but you couldn't flow that into the SFO piece. Well, as of this release coming out with R4, you now are going to be able to enter in and track serial numbers directly through SFO that are related to items in Intacct that require serial numbers. So it's a big enhancement we've been waiting for. On top of that, they've redesigned the SFO mobile app, and there's a new SFO mobile app available for both Android and Apple users. So once that new release comes up, you'll be able to update your app, and you should be able to take advantage of new features within that platform. So those are some things that SFO users will be looking forward to. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming out with the Sage Construction Payroll module within Sage Intacct. There's a few big features coming out. One of them is completely upgraded import utility will now be available. Those who have imported through the Sage Construction Payroll module prior knew it's already a pretty strong module to be able to import in not only time entry, but also configuration, setup, changes within employee pay modifiers and things like that from year to year. So they've only enhanced that, and I'll show you some screens on this next. They've also increased their check generation and processing times. So you should see more efficient, especially for the larger size payrolls, a faster check generation and processing time, along with a few enhancements to their check stubs that users have been asking for, including employee addresses now printing on the stub and splitting out amounts for 401k, for example, into both a pre-tax and post-tax bucket. Before it just showed it in one big amount. So just to kind of give you a preview of the new look and feel, some of the things you're going to be able to do in the importing section within Construction Payroll is now you're going to be able to do a more modern drag and drop upload for your import files, especially for time cards and things like that. You can just drag and drop it off of, email or File Explorer, and you can also manually enter data as well directly in there. You're going to have a improved and simpler field mapping. So when you first come in and upload your form, if you haven't done the form before, it will require you to map the columns in the spreadsheet to the columns inside Intacct. And it's just a more user-friendly, flexible mapping structure here. And also a data preview, a split screen option. As you're mapping the fields, it'll actually show you data a little more efficiently so that you can really make sure that you're mapping the correct fields back and forth into the system. As far as editing and deleting, it's going to get a lot more flexible. Now you're going to have the ability to delete rows right off the screen that you do not want to import instead of kind of letting them error out and bypassing them. And there's going to be some more sophistication as far as validation goes to make sure that your data is going to work as it gets imported and the system's not missing a cost code or something like that. So you're going to have a lot of those requirements within the system. And then as far as the check stub goes, just to give you a few screenshots of that, you'll see on top here now the full company name and address is going to show up on top of the stub. And then you can kind of see down here a new broken out section for company paid benefits. You'll see the 401k pre-tax and after tax broken out for users who have those pay modifiers set up in the system. So hopefully for the Sage field operation and construction payroll users, you get excited about some of these new enhancements coming up in R4. Thank you.
So now let's talk about enhancements to work in progress or WIP. So now the work in progress schedule has a couple new fields. It has a PM fields updated and a CFO fields updated, date and timestamp. So if you look at PM forecast contract value, PM forecast cost to completion, then there's also PM forecast cost to complete fields. If any of those are changed and the schedule is saved, it's going to say that the PM fields updated date and time stamp. It's going to put that new date and time in here. Also, the CFO fields, the CFO forecast contract value, cost to completion, and forecast cost to complete. That's going to, the date and timestamp is going to change when any one of those three fields are changed. Some new fields that they have added are project status, project manager, customer, the location, the department, the class, and the project type. So if a project manager field was updated after the CFO field, that might be a red flag to show that I need to then consider as the CFO or the person running this tool that I need to update my amounts potentially. Okay, so that's a good use of those two fields. Also down here, having the project manager either down here or in one of these columns, you can then easily see who you need to talk to if some values look strange. So just some key usage sample scenarios of why these new fields are important. Project status as well. If this now is in a closed state, you might want to put this to 100% complete. Okay, so just a couple key fields here that they've added that'll be helpful. Also, they've improved the range of values that are allowed in the percent complete. You can see the release notes there for those details, but here's just a quick snippet of those specific fields and those enhancements they've made to the ranges there. Okay. And finally, they have added a new over or under billed column here that basically nets the over and under billing into one column. So the negative value is going to be overbilled and a positive value is going to be underbilled here. Okay, so just one more field they've added there.
Now let's talk about some upcoming changes to the UI of Intacct in 2024 R4. So we do have some changes to terminology. That's going to be something where a field or two here and there has been changed as far as the label, but not the actual effect of the field. What we do see that has changed is the placement of the dimensions section within the project tab, and the business rules section is now on the additional info tab. So these two have kind of traded places. We do see as well on the additional info tab an example of one of those terminology changes. So previously these two checkboxes read billable employee and equipment expenses and billable AP and PO. So those fields have now been changed to indicate more clearly what they're doing. And that's pretty much the goal of any of those terminology changes. The fields do the same thing, record the same data, but they're a little bit more clear as to what that data is or what that field actually does. Another thing we do see is there are more list views and more clients that have access to the beta list views. So one of those is going to be like the AP vendors, and most of our clients should have access to turn on the lists beta interface for vendors. And I do encourage you to try this out if you haven't. It takes a little bit longer to load than the standard view, as you can see here, but it is absolutely fantastic in the amount of features it has. So one of the features that's my favorite is going to be you can change your fields quite easily, which makes this almost into a report all on its own that you can just come in and change as you need. So you click on the cogwheel in the top right, then you click configure columns, and now you can pull up any of those fields that you might have recorded for your system. So for instance, we might have the comments recorded in our system that we want to have. We might not be interested in, say, our total due, and we're probably not interested in the attachment, and we don't care what ledger it is. So I can turn off those columns and add comments all by checking those boxes and then clicking apply. Takes a moment for it to reload, and then we can see that the ledger field is no longer in the list, but we do have the comments field. And now we can as well change the size of these columns. So I can click and drag and make sure I have plenty of room for my vendor name. I can also double click on these columns to automatically size. And that one may already, no, that one did need to be fit for the values that are in it. So we see it widen. And then I can also rearrange these. So if for some reason I wanted my city before my address, I could move my city before my address just by clicking and dragging. Another beneficial feature that we have in that cogwheel is the sort. So I can click on sort here, and I can now sort by additional values. So if, for instance, I wanted to sort by, say, let's sort by state. And state is on here somewhere. State, and then let's sort by city. So if I wanted to sort by state and city, I could absolutely do that. And then I have now my state as field 1 and city as field 2 of my sort. And you can see all of these are California vendors, and they're sorted by their city that goes with them. If I wanted to save these changes, all I would have to do is click on Manage View and click Save As, and then I could reuse this as often as I wanted and be happy with it. And if I don't like the changes I've made, I can click Revert Changes to take it back to the way it was when I first loaded up the list. And once that loads up, you can see this is exactly how it was. Another really fancy feature, I can click on this little side-by-side view button up here, and when this comes up, it takes, again, just a moment to load. But when it comes up, what we can see is now I can go through the records in this list and see them next to my list. So if I need to go through several of my various different list items, so maybe I'm looking at invoices and I need to go through my invoices and make a change here or there, I can go through a lot of them really quickly, make the changes I need, and then move on to the next one without reloading the list. And if I need to go back to my list view, all I do is click on the list view here, and that'll take us back to that enhanced list view that's more a traditional list view. From there, if I just really don't like the beta interface, all I have to do is click Turn Off Beta, and that'll take me back to my default list view that you've been familiar with Intacct for some time.
I will be showing you what's new in Sage Intacct Construction as of the R4 release in 2024. And we're going to be focusing on the automatic vendor payment notifications to more recipients. So now automatic payment notifications can be sent to both primary and secondary vendor email addresses with a simple configuration change. So if you read directions better, then you can pause the video here and take a screenshot or use this as your directions. If you want me to show you how to do it, then please stay. So the payment notification process, you're going to set up the secondary email notifications in your configuration, like I'm going to show you. Then you're going to create a payment request in Bills, setting the desired contact for notifications. After approval, you're going to confirm the payment based on the payment method. Then if automatic notifications are enabled, Intacct will send notifications to both primary and secondary emails for the vendor's pay to contact, using the chosen sender from Pay Bills unless another contact is specified in the payment approval settings. So some helpful information on this is that if no secondary email is specified, Intacct sends notification to the primary email only without generating an error. So you do have to be aware of that. Manual payment notification emails, when sending them from a posted payment view, Intacct sends it to the primary email only. So how are we going to configure this? So we are going to start by clicking the applications up here, and we're going to go to accounts payable. From here, we're going to go into the setup and then configuration. Here, we're going to scroll down until we get to enable functionality. And then we will have include secondary email contacts and automatic payment notifications. Once you check this box and click save, now it's done. And on the contact list tab, make sure to verify the vendor name and email address. Now we also have to set up a vendor to receive payment notifications. So we're going to go to accounts payable again. Then we're going to click all, go to vendors. So we are going to select whichever vendor that we need to select. I'm going to choose this one. And you're going to click edit. We are going to go to the payment information tab. Then we are going to select this checkbox where it says send automatic payment notification. So after we have checked that, we are going to click save. And then we are going to go to edit really quick again, just to check our contact list and make sure that we have contacts in here, and verify their name and email address, and make sure that they have a name and email address. And this second contact that it's going to be going to is the paid to contact. That's going to be the secondary. So once we save this, the notification email details, the payment notifications are sent to both the primary and the secondary emails listed as the vendor's paid to contact, with the print as name used in the greeting. And then if the paid to contact is set to same as vendor, then the print as name and email addresses are sourced from the vendor's primary tab. And that is what's new in just that little bit in R4.
A new update for R4 is the ability to run a vendor reconciliation report and a customer reconciliation report. And they are going to give you at a glance what you either owe to the vendor or what you are owed from the customer, and how credits and payments apply to bills or invoices. So to set that up, I am going to start with accounts payable. So I'm going to go to my accounts payable module and I'm going to set up the vendor reconciliation first. So go to setup, click into configuration, and when you get in here, scroll down until you get to the document sequencing section. And this vendor reconciliation is the update. So you want to enable vendor reconciliation, and you have to set up a match sequence. So the match sequence is going to match your credits and your payments to your bills, and they'll have the same match sequence that you know they are related. So if you don't have anything in here, that's totally fine. Click on the drop down and select add. First things first, click alpha. It does have to be an alpha sequence for this particular report. So you're going to want to click that first, then put in your sequence ID and name, and your primary sequence, let's just do this, would be A. So this is just what I put in, VR and then separator and A. So my next unused sequence, so for this document matching sequence, it's going to come up VR-A. And it goes A through VR-A through VR-Z, and then it restarts and it goes VR-AA, so on and so forth. So you put in whatever you want that to say yourself and click save. And then you save again on the configuration page, and that saves the actual enable button. Okay, so once you have that saved, refresh your browser. And then let's go to company, admin, roles. And within your role, I am going to assume that you have administrator. Click on subscriptions and then go to accounts payable, permissions, and down in the report section, you want to make sure that you enable vendor reconciliation for yourself to be able to run that report. Okay, save again, refresh your browser. Once you have that done, go back to your accounts payable module, the All tab, and you should see vendor reconciliation here in the report section. So first, you're going to enable it in configuration. Then you're going to apply the permission, refresh your browser, and you should see vendor reconciliation here. So obviously, you'll have to put in some transactions to see the match sequence, but I actually have put in some transactions since I set that up just to be able to show you on this video. So I'm going to put in my current month, that's fine, and I'm going to do it for the office supply stores who I used in this example. So I'm going to view the report, and it's going to show me, yes, I have an open balance for this vendor. And also it's going to show me my match sequence for my transactions. So this is vendor recon C, and that's the bill. And this credit is related to that bill. This payment is related to that bill. And this payment is related to that bill. So that's the match sequence and how that works. So that's your vendor reconciliation report. And then if you want to set it up for your customer reconciliation report, it's going to be exactly the same, but in accounts receivable. So go to AR, setup, configuration, scroll down until you get to your document sequencing section. Down here, you want to click enable customer reconciliation. You need to set up your match sequence. Select the drop down, click add, make sure it's alpha, and put in whatever sequence makes sense to you. Save. Save again. Go to company, admin, roles. For your role or whatever role needs access to this report, click subscriptions, go to AR permissions. Down in the report section, you want to click run beside customer reconciliation. Save. Save again. Refresh your browser. And within the accounts receivable module under the All tab, you should now see your customer reconciliation report. It's going to function in the exact same way as the vendor reconciliation report. So another welcome addition. And if you have any additional questions, of course, just leave a comment on our video. Thank you very much.
Today, I will be showing you what's new in Sage Intacct Construction as of the R4 release 2024. And we are going to be focusing on the enhancements made to accounts receivable statements. So the first enhancement is enabling running balance calculations on custom statement templates to eliminate manual calculations for customers. And then the second one is currency symbols are now going to appear by default, enhancing clarity for foreign currency statements. So as you can see on the right, here is a currency symbols default picture, and it has the little symbols. And if you do not like listening and you want to just read the directions, you can pause here and read those directions and follow them, and please read the helpful information. But if you want to listen along and need to follow along, then I'm happy to show you. So let's start with the helpful information. The running balance for accounts receivable statements is going to be supported in the print doc templates only. So this is only going to be supported in doc templates and standard statement templates. Those that are included in Intacct do not include running balances. So to start right here, you're going to go to Applications. You're going to go to Platform Services, Printed Doc Templates, and whichever doc template that you would like to add this to, you are going to download by clicking the template right here. So once you have your template all downloaded and in Word, you're going to make sure that you have your add-ins set up and intact. For these merge fields, click Insert Merge Fields. And then you are going to add the merge field pre-entry _ balance to your document once you've created an extra table or created an extra column, sorry. Next, you are going to save this and then add it to your document templates in Platform Services by going over here and clicking Edit. And then you'll be able to add it. I can't add it in here though. Then once you've put it in there, you can edit the printed doc template entry for the statement and select Save on both of those. And you want to test this by going to Accounts Receivable. Then you're going to go to All and Invoices, Printer Email. Then you're going to go to Statements. And you are going to click View and then Printer Email. It would be easier to preview. And so then you'll be able to preview it and see if it came out to your liking and fix it how you would like it to be fixed.
So one of the new features of R4 for 2024 is the ability to use GL outlier to detection to make your journal entry approvals a more streamlined process. So if you are already using journal entry approvals in the system, this might just make your life easier. And if you do not have that process enabled, but it's something that you're interested in, you would go to General Ledger Setup and Configuration. And in here, there's a section where you can enable journal entry approvals. And that's a whole process in itself that I will not go into today. If it's something that you're interested in setting up for your company, go to our YouTube and we do have videos on that. So if you already have that set up, you know that there's this approved journal entry section within your General Ledger module. And some companies, of course, might have hundreds of journal entries that they have to approve. And this GL outlier detection is using AI to read your data so that it can tell you whether or not a transaction is similar to what you put in, or if there's a flag on it, if it looks different to what you normally put in your system. So if you already have that enabled, you would go then to Company. Under the Admin tab, click on to Subscriptions. And that whole GL outlier is driven by this AI machine learning. And this is part of the core subscription. So If it's not clicked on, click it on. If you don't see it, then you're going to need to reach out to get that enabled in your system. But if you see this here, just click it on and then you would click configure. So when you click configure, then you enable data service. And if this is not checked, you want to check off enable for general ledger approval. So this does not take automatic effect because the system needs time to read your data so that it can learn from your data basically to tell you when something looks strange or when a transaction brings back a flag. So it takes at least 2 days or 1,000 transactions, something like that. So basically you would click on both of these and save, and then the system starts reading your data and you can come back in here and this will give you a ready status when it's actually going to start working for you. So then when you go to your approved journal entry screen, this is what you would see is this outlier section, which is going to give you either nothing, which means that it hasn't run through outlier. It's going to give you an exclamation mark, which says, this is a little off to me. I'm not exactly sure what it is. And in that case, you would go in and you would view the transaction and hover over it. And it's going to give you a little description on what's off on the transaction. So it might say something like dimension setup is a little weird, or dimensions that you've coded to are unusual, something like that. And this with the little line is it's been through outlier, it looks fine, should be good for approval. And then, I mean, you can decide whether or not you're just going to say, yeah, okay, or you're going to go into it. But I mean, as time gets on, the system is learning more from your data, getting smarter, and you should be able to trust it more that if this comes up, yes, you can just approve. That's totally up to you. This is just the process that's going to make that a little bit easier for you. So that is how you would enable and turn that on. Obviously, keep in mind, it will take a couple of days, a good few transactions for the system to start learning so that it actually gives you this information. But a nice enhancement as part of R4.
The next enhancements for 2024 Release 4 we want to focus on has to do with sales tax, using it through order entry and or purchasing, I should say. There's a new feature coming out called Override Tax Schedules in Purchasing and Order Entry. And for those who are using the advanced taxes and have sales tax tracking need for either order entry or purchasing, know that getting those tax schedules to pre-fill in properly and overriding them when they don't, becomes a challenge. So this is a nice new enhancement that is going to allow the user to override the tax schedules right during the document entry, instead of having to go back and edit it in the contact record and the item record and make sure all the different parts are working. And how it works is this. So we're going to go into Intacct, and I'm going to go directly at the top level, and I'm going to go into the module that I'd like to turn it on for. So it's either going to be in purchasing and or order entry. For this demo here right now, we're going to talk about purchasing specifically. So I'll be at the top level and I'll go into Setup Configuration. And in here, as you scroll down in the tax area, you already have the Use Advanced Tax Schedules turned on. And if so, you're going to see a new menu item here called Enable Override of Tax Schedule on Document Entry. It is an optional feature you could turn on or off. There might be some case scenarios where you don't want to allow override. You want the system to calculate correctly behind the scenes for you. In this scenario, we're going to enable it. So once we do that, that'll turn on that feature for us. We'll click Save. And now we'll go through and kind of show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go over into my Timberline General Construction. And during this process, I set up a purchase order in the system for Jackson Plumbing. And if we take a look at it, basically when the user fills out the purchase order, we're going to put in the vendor, we're going to put in the project, not necessarily know where the tax is supposed to go yet at this point. So it will pre-fill, in a delivered to contact. And in the past, you kind of really had to get this delivered to correct right then and there. So if it was a different tax setup, you could establish multiple contacts here, and you could have a particular contact set up for exempt or for a job. You'd have to have a specific deliver to, and you still can with this feature. But what's really nice is if you do forget to code it or code it incorrectly, you can catch it later and fix it. So in this scenario, we've coded it to the project, the cost code, the cost type, and a particular item. And this item is, part of your regular tax setup is going to be either set up as taxable or not. So in this scenario, it's taxable. And we filled in the amount. But at the purchase order level, we're not really worried or tracking the sales tax at this point. So that document has already been saved in Intacct. Now the bill comes in, and we're going to go ahead and do our normal process here. We'll come into that purchase order, and we'll convert it. And I'm going to convert it into this AP bill, this invoice transaction definition. And this one has tax set up in it. So when I convert it now, it pre-filled everything in along with the deliver to. And those who use the advanced tax know how important the deliver to is. When I get down to here, you're still going to want to fill in like a vendor number. But notice what happens. The line item here, there's a new field on your entry screen called tax schedule. Notice it's blank. So in this scenario, something isn't set up correctly to retrieve a tax schedule. Most likely it doesn't have the information on the contact tax group, on the contact record, or in the item, etc. But in order to fix that, you would have to go and flip the deliver to and all that. Now, the user can just come here and pull up a list of the tax schedules that you have already set up in your system and just pick the correct one. And I'm going to pick this Oregon sales tax one I have here. And notice immediately it fills in the tax rate. And as I tab through here, it will also calculate. There's one key factor in this. You probably should have a price in there. So I apologize for that. But if I put a price in, it would have calculated the tax as well here. So let's go ahead and fill something out. So now you can see here the 70 calculated for you automatically. Okay. So what's really nice is maybe something isn't right with this. And you can go, make a note and, come back into the contact later to correct it. But right now I just need to get this in, and I could go ahead and override that tax schedule right here per line item. And you'll notice at the bottom, you can either click to calculate subtotals now, or when you click post, it'll go ahead and fill it down for you automatically. You do not even need to update the calculate subtotal, but I'll do it here for this demo, and you can see the correct sales tax. Now let's say, okay, let's post that. And now we realize that was the wrong tax group. It's not paid yet. So I can come back into that invoice and I can edit it. And you're still going to be able to come into here, go down to that line and switch the schedule. So let's say this should have been 5.5% tax or a different county, whatever it's supposed to be. And again, when I tab through that, it recalculates the tax. I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to recalculate it down here. I'm going to hit post. And once I do that and saves it, if I go back in and take a look at it, you'll notice down at the bottom, it did that recalculation for us. So this is going to be a tremendously handy feature for users as they're filling this tax information out to go ahead and get that document into the system with the correct tax schedule without having to really rebuild and reset up the contact tax group. Later on, you can come back into this contact tax group and realize, oh, it's because there's no tax group on this contact here. That's why it didn't work. So you can fix it long term, but for now, get it into the system. So this is a really, really handy enhancement that's coming out. We're looking forward to seeing it.
Today, I'm going to be showing you what's new in Sage Construction Management that's in relation to Sage Intacct Construction's R4 release of 2024. Here is a quick little cheat sheet of everything that is new. So since this is just a summary of the release notes, to see the full release notes, you can go into Sage Construction Management, click this little question mark at the top, click on what's new, and here you can click on all of the release notes. Also in Sage Intacct, you can go to view release notes for 2024 R4. So to start in what's new, we're going to go to our accounting link. And go into your posting preferences. Here, you're able to see your timesheet, your equipment, and your miscellaneous expenses. You are now able to integrate all of these, and the time cards are going to support a selection of data resources for project timesheet fields. So they're going to allow specification for SCM labor codes in Intacct and enable a selection requirement time types for Intacct. So here, if you just click on this little bar, you can either post the SCM time cards to Intacct or retrieve them from Intacct. You cannot do both. Just going to put that out there. You cannot do both, but you can do one or the other. And so here is your fields for that. And here are your fields for retrieving them from Intacct. Then we have the equipment. If you want to integrate equipment time cards, you can select that little checkbox and you would fill this out. Then for miscellaneous expenses, you would also select this little checkbox and you can fill this out here. So for your timesheets, if you are going to retrieve them from Intacct, you need to make sure that you've selected the Sage CM time card comments. So if you want them coming from the project sheet notes or the notes and description, then the bill rate, if you want to use the Intacct project timesheet bill rate or the Sage CM employee payroll item bill rate. Then the time card date, if you want a previous import date or in the last 30 days. Then lastly, this payroll item linking preferences. Here you can select the SCM payroll items that you have added in your settings and link them to the Intacct time types. Then for posting the CM time cards to Intacct, you're going to pick your first day of the week, so Monday, or you can also use your Sage CM first day of the week. Then you have your cost type that you're going to choose. You can choose to use your labor resource mapping and general preferences or specify the payroll item linking section, which is going to be there. So then you have your labor class. You can choose not to populate. Then you can choose your labor shift. You can choose to not populate any of these. You also have your payroll item linking preferences that you can select here. Then for equipment, you're just going to check this little box. Then for equipment, you're just going to check this little box and you can choose your purchase transaction definition and your vendor names, the cost rate, equipment time card hours, all of these. Then the line item descriptions, where you can select here, you're going to have your default Intacct item, default GL account for Intacct, and default cost type. Then you can also specify per Sage CM equipment item, which will give you the item linking preferences right here. Then lastly, in miscellaneous expenses, you can do your filter criteria, and you can do the pay employee, pay vendor. Here you have the mapping, which you will default the GL account numbers and the miscellaneous expense type. You can link those to. You can post expense as a draft or submitted. Here you can put your default Intacct payment type. Then you can do your payment types will pop up here, and you can select the expense type, employee expense payment type here. Then lastly, you can do the formatting. And the next thing that's new in the accounting link for Sage Intacct is going to be the individual sync of project components. So projects, budgets, and contracts all are going to sync separately to prevent deletion from sync errors with resync options for updates. So if you want to update a project, let's say it has the budget was wrong, you need to update that or update the estimate, you can go into your accounting link and then you're going to go to projects, estimates, and contracts. You're going to view the posted projects. And then if it's already over there, it will show you. And then you can select repost and it will allow you to repost what you need to. The employee ID sync is also able to be done now in Intacct from SCM. So on the first thing, you have contact management and you have the employee ID numbering here. The prime contract and invoice posting, prime contract details and invoices with stored material can now be posted or reposted. And the vendor payment terms are included in vendor posting and in the import. Some other accounting link updates are the extended payment retrieval. So payments older than 180 days in Intacct can now be accessed. You can link prime contract terms. Terms for prime contracts are now connected between SCM and Intacct. Then automated billing terms. Billing terms are going to sync to Intacct from the customer profile settings in the prime contract. Then the field length flexibility is a big thing where the fields over Intacct's 25 character limit are going to now be turnketed allowed for posting from SCM to Intacct. You can do this by going to your posting preferences. Then in general preferences, there is a field truncation option where you can either have it throw an error message, so you change the name in here, or you can change it there. Posting limits by field type. So posting is going to halt if the project or contract numbers exceed 20 characters, while other fields follow specified posting preferences, such as the field options here. And then lastly, there are some great new reports in SCM and analytics. So we can go to our analytics tab here. So the ERP job to date costs have been updated with detailed summary with ERP job to date cost, financial summary using SCM. We also have the SCM cost budgets and commitments, gross cost at completion versus ERP job date costs. And in these analytics, contract, invoice, and ERP job to date costs. Then also in this export data area, you can now have access to the WIP API. So you can report for Sage Intacct work in progress, PM forecasting export. You can select your exporting format here. Then on the dashboards of the analytics, there is a new by summary dashboards for retainage, which consist of cross-project and prime and sub invoice retainage overview. And that is it for SCM's new things that are in Intacct's R4 release 2024.
As always with a new release, we like to remind everybody that it is very important to update the permissions for the updates within the release. So Intacct does not know which roles are supposed to have permission to these new updates. So they do not automatically do that update for you. So you'll have to go into company, admin, roles, and obviously for whichever role you need to have access to the new updates, you're going to have to give them that permission. I am specifically going to use the administrator role because we always assume that the administrator has access to everything. So what you would do is you find the particular role that you need to change, go to subscriptions, and then within the subscriptions, each module has its own section with the permissions listed. So for this particular release, the updates for permissions are within time and expense. So if I click on permissions, I already have it checked off, but it's this electronic receipts. You're going to want to turn that on for any role that needs it. And then within AP, down in the report section, vendor reconciliation report, that's new. You're going to want to turn that on for anybody that needs it. And also in accounts receivable, in permissions, down in the report section, and this one I left off. So you check off whatever permission that you need that is not on, save, and save again. And just for good measure, whenever that saves, I like to do a browser refresh because it never hurts. And then the permissions, the new permissions will have been applied to that role. So, you know, that's very important that you update those permissions. This is concluding our videos on R4, and we hope that you are happy with the new updates. As always, please let us know if there's anything that you think is really important for Intacct to release. Let us know in the comments. We always like to hear from clients, from customers, from people who are users of Intacct, so that we can relay that information to the developers. So let us know, and thanks very much.